How you doing, Instagram? Hello, Facebook. Hello, YouTube. Just in the process of fine-tuning this. That's probably better. Just about to go live soon. Although I am live, as you might say. Put you there. That's fine. I've got so many devices going off at the moment. Let's close this down. Zoom. Participants. Okay. So I've got Zoom going on as well. I've got Instagram. And hi, John. Hello there. Hi, Natalie. All good? I can't hear you.
Okay, I think can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's cool.
Okay, good.
Good.
Hi, I'm Natalie. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, you too. So it's always a pleasure, never a chore, as they say. So I've got a few things going on, Natalie. I've got Instagram. I've got YouTube Live. And of course, I put the Zoom on just in case anybody wanted to connect. It's an open session for you guys. But I really just wanted to focus on going through some of the tools and equipment that somebody like a newcomer would potentially want to know about. There was a lady who contacted me. Hi, Olivia. Olivia contacted me a few weeks ago and said, look, I want to get into Marquetry, but I don't know what to buy because there's so much to buy. Can you tell me what would be essential for me to start off? Because I don't know if I really like it yet. And I don't want to spend a fortune on equipment and etc. So I thought of it, and that was a great question, Olivia. And I thought what I'll do a little video, hopefully addressing that. So on the YouTube channel that I have, there's like 2 areas. I think one of them is like my 5 top tools and then the essential tools. And it's a little bit quick. So what I'd like to do is to go in depth about why we have certain tools and equipment. And hopefully by the end of this, or when I get onto the knife section, Natalie, I can hopefully explain to you why I don't like that particular knife that we previously had a discussion about. Right. So I do apologize. I got the 10A mixed up with 11A. So I blame myself. That's purely my own fault. Okay. Because those blades that you did get were for surgical reasons. And when I get into the knives, I'll tell you the reason why I don't like it. Okay. So we've got John. Hi, John. John's on YouTube. He was in here the other week about shadow casting. Thanks for joining us, John. I'm going to make a start now. Okay. And I'm just going to go with the flow. Okay. Okay. Let's have a quick gander. Move this over here. I don't know if it's better for me to sit down, or I think this view's good because you can see what I'm doing. That view's okay. Well, number 1 on the list is veneers. any marquetry person or person who does marquetry, this natural wood, which is veneer, is our most essential and most important part of what we do and what we have. There's many species of veneers. I think there's about 200 that are manufacturable. In other words, there's about 200 species that we can use for making veneers with, that have been produced by manufacturing process. Now, on average, the thickness of veneer that we use for this thin veneer is about 0.7 of a mil. It's very thin, and they've generally been manufactured to perfection. You will get variations of like 0.5 or a little bit thicker, but the moment that it goes into about 2 mil, if it goes really thick, it goes into what's called constructional veneers. And these are used generally for bending or making shape materials or shape components within the furniture industry. But they also lend themselves well to being make marquetry with a saw blade. And that is where you use a fret saw or a little fine blade to actually use a saw to create marquetry. That's a different technique to the one that I use. I use a knife, which is more traditional. But basically, as a marqueteer who uses veneer, I'm looking for 0.6, 0.7 millimeters of veneer. Veneers are a little bit of a tricky subject because not everybody has access to veneers. And to try and deal with that, I created a document on which I put onto the Facebook. It's part of the lesson notes, where I go into different kinds of you can obviously Google and come up maybe with Amazon or Etsy, or there's numerous places where you can get your veneers from. But there's also quicker or more localized places you can get veneer from. And that would include cabinet makers, restorers, yacht or boat makers, model makers. And if you look in the notes, it shows how you can approach these businesses to try and ask them for veneer. And the good thing is, some of these people who actually, so hi Thomas, some of these people who actually could potentially give you veneers could also potentially be a customer. Like, for instance, I know a lot of cabinet makers who will just do pure veneering, but haven't got the time to actually do the marquetry. And they would sooner somebody else have it. So potentially, if you actually do contact these businesses, it is a chance that they might be interested in actually saying, "Oh, look, can you do some for me?" So it's a good way to get veneers and potentially make clients. So veneers, they come in all sorts of shapes. I have here a blue, by the way, a blue. These are colored, these are manufactured colors. There's many different ranges of colors that are available. Some people like colors, some people don't. Some people are purists, and what they want is just pure wood. For me, in all about marquetry, I try to keep as open as possible, so that there's no sort of judgment, as you might say. It's about the art, it's about the expression. It's your choice at the end of the day whether you go for natural woods, man-made veneers, or colored. And at the end of the day, it's probably your artwork that is going to be the thing that selects or allows you to choose certain woods for a particular design. So I've got some more woods. Again, we could go on to all the different kinds of veneers that are out there. The main point is to say, look, veneers are an essential part of the veneering process, of the marquetry process. The more colors and the more woods you can get, the more spectral, the more coloration you can actually show in your artwork. Now, of course, you don't want to go too far. You don't want to buy bundles and bundles and bundles, but variation is like the spice of life. The more variations you've got is better. So I've got a few here. just to show off, you know, just different kinds of veneers. Some rosewood, some mahogany. I've got a lovely burr here, a lovely burr. What they might call like a root. Here's your rosewood. You know, and this is one of the things of the art of marquetry, is actually looking at your veneer. How do you patch that in to the work that you do? How do you patch that in? You know, you can look at a piece of veneer and say, look, I like the knots. I like the details in that. I want that to go there because it's going to add an extra value. It's going to add an extra part of the story, as you might say, into the design. And these are the essential choices that a person that does marquetry does. And, you know, it comes down to the fact of like using the grain direction when you're doing your pieces. And one thing that you will learn as new people going into veneer is that the way that you cut your veneer, either going across or with the grain, really affects or can be affected for the amount of quality that you do, the way that you cut. So that's something that you've got to learn later. It's like the direction, the wood itself will resist you. And at the same time, it might aid you. So there's a tremendous amount to learn when you come into contact with veneer as regards to how you look at it to put it in, and also how you cut it. Do you go for the easy cut? Do you go for the easy cut and yet it doesn't quite directionally line up with what you want? Or do you go for the hard cut and then it's perfect? And these are the choices as you develop into marquetry, is what you will be doing. Okay. But veneers are extremely essential. Without them, we don't have any marquetry. We don't have any parquetry or any of that. It's veneers are very important. And one last thing I want to say about veneers is sometimes there are veneers that are backed. They've got a cardboard back on. And they're really good because it supports the grain of the veneer. The thing is, the variety of those species that are backed with the paper backing are limited. So they generally only the commercial kinds like oak, cherry, walnut. You might find a few ash or popular. The paper backed, there's a limited range. So therefore you're limiting yourself, because what you don't want to do is you don't want to use one veneer that's thicker than the other. When you press them, there's a discrepancy. You want to try and keep it consistent, because the paperback ones that are available on the market, they're slightly thinner. They're not only cut, but they're backed and then they're sanded. So a lot more smoother, but they're very thin. But the advantage with the paper on the back is that they don't give, they don't collapse, they don't break as easy. So, I mean, that again, in time, as you come to find out, you might go to a place to buy veneers and you'll say, oh, there's something on the back here. Yeah, it's paper backed. Make sure you keep to one or the other. Okay. That's just a little tip there. So that's the veneers sorted out. Let's have a look. I'll put this over here. Oh, yeah. And when you buy veneers, by the way, you're going to buy them in packs. And the pack will be like a full rundown. You maybe, 15, 20 sheets. Keep them all together. Now, I've got some notes for you later as regards to like how to maintain and look after your veneers, because this is called like a running buck. It's a consistent buck, and you don't want to mix them up. You want to keep them all together. Okay. And there's a reason for that. It's also if you've got to do like patchwork, you want to know where it comes from. Okay. I don't want to go too deep into that right now, but this is how you'll get it. Keep them, if you get packs, keep them in a plastic bag. I've got this one here. Again, this is in black. These are just bin bags. If you buy a lot of sheets, you want to maintain them and look after them. And my tip is to put them into bin bags. It stops the dust. It stops the light. It stops you putting cups of coffee on them. It stops them from being broken. And you put your name on or the type of the wood that it's in, the sizes. on each particular bag, and then you're not having to sieve through and open each bag up. So there is a number, and I think it says Sycamore, February 2023. Okay, I have lots of these little things packed away, so I know when I need a big project, what's in it and how big it is. Okay, so it keeps it dust free. It won't be shaded by the sun, and it's just really good to be professional about this from the start. Okay, well, that's veneers done and dusted. What else have we got? One of my favorites. This thing here. Hope you're still with us, John. This is a cutting mat, and I've got several ones. They're a lifesaver. They're a lifesaver. You know, when I started out doing this, I didn't have these funny things. What I had was something a bit cheaper and something I could get my hands on. And that was just a bit of MDF. If you don't have a cutting block and you really need something, get an MDF or some ply, some thin ply. There's a disadvantage that we've got in both of these things. This, when you cut into this a lot of times, you'll get lines. And eventually you'll be cutting through your veneer and your knife will fall into that line and then it will come off and you'll think, why? What's going on? And it's because you'll leave little tram lines in this, because it's only MDF. The wood, on the other hand, has got grain on it. So you'll cut through and you'll follow the grain underneath and it will pull you off. So these things, although they're okay, they're not ideal. I only say use these if you don't have anything else. And the last thing that you really want to be doing is basically setting your table up on your marble table at home or your mahogany dining room table and starting to cut through your veneers and damaging your table. You don't really want that. How are you doing though? Okay? Parallel Brown? Good. So these things are like an emergency, a last resort. The fact that you can use a ply or MDF. Failing that, my suggestion is to get yourself some thin cardboard. It's not thin, it's not thin, it's about 2 millimeters thick. This is like the pure basic. And these things are only used until you can get yourself one of these. See, what these things do, they absorb the knife cut. They absorb the knife and they don't blunten the knife and they don't have grain direction in them. Although you might think it's quite strange, but you'll have a beautiful piece of veneer and you'll be cutting through this and you'll be, for some reason, you'll be like, why can't I get a straight line on that? And most of the time it's because the substrate underneath is made of wood, has got some lines in it, is got distortions in it, where it's going to pull off your knife, and it pulls it off. I've seen people working on their wooden benches, cutting veneer, and going, "What's going on here?" You know, and what it is, the knife's gone through, and then it's been pulled away by the wood underneath. But not only that, one of the benefits of these, although it's only cardboard, you can only use it for so long, is that it doesn't damage what's underneath. So if you've got a beautiful table, marble, rosewood, mahogany, even your kitchen table, it doesn't matter. You don't really be working on that and damaging it. So this is like the bare minimum that you can have is this just thick cardboard if you can't find one of the cutting blocks. I will say that cutting blocks are the unsung hero in marquetry. Now, this is an A3. They have some very big ones, and they're ideal. They're really good. But these things have saved me so many times. It's only A3, you know, but look, I can easily stick them together if I need to. So I've got loads of these and stick them together. Now, I do have some lesson notes on how to look after these, because I can assure you, if you throw them around and you leave them under stuff, you see like that little piece there, right now it looks okay, but it starts to bend. After 2 days in that position, when I pull it away, that bend will be there like that, and I'll find it extremely hard to work on. And sometimes they don't always go back that easy. It takes a while, so you've got to press it. And that's been another thing that I've suffered from in the past, is like putting my stuff down and it's been distorted. So look after them, keep them flat as possible, okay? Always keep them flat, because again, like I said, if something's underneath, it will bend and you'll be rocking with your veneer on the piece of wood. That's how bad it gets. You get a big bump and you can't get it out. And if it's the only one that you've got, you'll be struggling. So with that said and done, these are a lifesaver, cutting mats, okay? Now let's have a look. I've got a little notes here. Tapes. I think is the next one that I need to go into. I've got a few things going on here. These will do fine. When I started doing marquetry, I used clear office tape. It's quite shiny. It's easy to use. It's small. It's thin. And there's quite a lot of marquetry people who still use this. And I like it. It's okay. And the other thing that you can do, when you put it on, you can actually see through the tape. So you're not actually being hindered by what you can see. So it's okay. The thing I don't like about it is it can be really hard on your fingers. Is that if you accidentally leave it on the back, that you're going to, what will happen is that the veneer will unpeel off. And if you've got an extremely intricate piece of marquetry, the pieces will just basically do that. The distortion, temperature change, moisture, it might not happen straight away, but what happens is it detaches from the surface and comes off. Because the tape is stuck to the veneer and the glue can't penetrate through the tape. It can't get through. So the wood structure here that should be glued down isn't actually there. It isn't actually there. So it will just peel off like so. So clear tape's a real good one. I've got a wider one here, wide clear tape. And the reason why I use this is because when I'm making a little wooden press board, which is 2 of these, this is only MDF. It's only MDF, this. What I just, it's just 18 mil MDF. What I do, if you're using wood glue on veneer, sometimes you might put too much on in the pressing. This is in the pressing process. And the glue will squidge out and it will come out through the veneer front, through those little cracks, through those little lines. And if this is just MDF, you'll end up sticking your entire piece together. It'll all stick. The wood will stick to the glue and stick to the veneer, and the veneer will stick to the wood, and will stick to the wood, and etc. It will just, you'll have an entire piece glued together. So just in case I make a mistake, I always just tape this up. So I use this wide tape and I just tape it up. And just like this tape here, the glue can't penetrate. The glue can't get through. And therefore, even if the glue was to squidge out, it can't stick to this. So it will always detach. It will always come off. Now, it's only like a few microns thick. It's not exactly really thick. So it's not going to affect the pressing. It's not going to affect the way that you actually do your work. But I always do this on all my boards. Like so there. So your veneer work will go in there and get pressed. Of course, you'll use paper and go through the clamping process. But it means that no matter what happens, that wood glue can't stick to these. So it's an important feature. So that's the advantage of the wide the wide clear tape. It's very thin, it's very consistent. So of the other veneer tapes that I use, there's definitely different kinds of coloured, what they call sensitive tape or low tack. What it is that low tack tapes, although they're not the strongest, they usually allow you enough time to hold together the veneer. Now, I use tabs when I do my marquetry, which are like little slices, okay? You can use masking tape, but the resin that is used, which is the glue on the tape, sometimes in the pressing process, or if you leave it on your veneer too much, it will bleed through and it can be hard to get off. And sometimes it can be that hard that when you pull the tape off, you end up pulling the veneer, some of the veneer grain out of the wood. And then before you know it, you've actually got like these pits, these veneer line pits that where you've pulled off the veneer, the actual grains of veneer out of the wood. So you don't want that. And low tack is not as strong as that. So I've got like a little purple low tack, which is just enough for you to actually stick your veneer together. I also have one here which is a bit more professional. This is a low tack also, and it's just enough. But what I do, I'll show you what I do. So I'll just use this knife. I make little tabs when I stitch together my work, and that means I'll go at a diagonal and I do little strips like so, like a little strip like that, like what I call a tab. And this tab will hold your veneer together where it needs to be. And as you can see there, this is a lot better, a lot less tape than if I did that, because a lot of people who do marketing tend to just slab on the tape, and you'll see it's just like tape, it goes everywhere. The disadvantage with that is some tapes are quite slippy and slimy, and it doesn't actually stick onto that tape. And the other thing that happens is that if you lay tape on top of tape on top of tape on top of tape, before you know it, you've got 0.5 millimeter of tape all over your marquetry. And then you're going to press that. So you've got 0.5 mil of marquetry in places, tape on your marquetry in certain places, which have been built up to about 0.5 millimeter. When you press that, that will go into the soft veneers. The hard ones will survive, but any soft veneer. So what potentially you're doing is you're making it an uneven press. And secondly, you're potentially bruising some of the veneers before you've even got around to sanding it. So that is why it's better to use little tabs to build it up, to keep it together. And it's a lot neater, a lot tidy. You can see more of the lines, because when you do marquetry and you cover it up like with this thing here, you can't see what's going on. You don't know if it's opened up, if there's cracked, you can't see it. But with a little tab, you get to see the picture emerge, rather than you having to flip it over every time to see what's going on. So tapes, masking tapes are okay. Try to get sensitive or low tack. Again, clear tape's okay, to start off with. The good thing about clear tape is it's cheap, cheerful. You can buy them in like 6 or 7 packs in the supermarket or whatever. They're easy to get hold of, whereas sometimes specialized veneer tapes like this can be a little bit harder to get. And the reason why I did the basics on this is like just so that we can get stuff together and start making marquetry with the bare minimum. So the office tape is a winner for me. Let's have a look what else we've got. So that's the tapes, clear masking tape, got that. Now knives. This is fun. Let's have a look. Knives. Oh, it's upside down. Is it upside down? Anyway, the same ones, Natalie, the same ones,
Yeah.
only in number 11. Okay. I did a full video on knives on the YouTube channel, because it's what I don't believe in doing is dictating to people what I think that they should use. I don't believe in it, and I'm not going to, because at the end of the day, these are your hands. You're doing the work. It shouldn't be my choice to say, look, you've got to use this or you'll fail, because that's rubbish. And I do know a lot of people who do marquetry with a knife who do use different kinds of knives. So who am I to say that you can and you can't? Well, what I will do is say, look, I use a particular knife, and this is the reason why I use it. And then it's like that's my opinion at the end of the day, you know. So I'm going to try and go through some pros and cons, because you know, it's how you feel comfortable. It's how you feel comfortable. If you're really going to get into marquetry, I will assure you that the hours and hours that you spend with a knife, you will have to be comfortable with it, because you do it that much over a full day, your fingers get tired. There's things that happen to your fingers. I'm not going to go into too much blah blah blah, but it can become uncomfortable. So it's important that you're happy with that. Now let me just stop for give me a minute here, everybody. I've got 10 minutes. I've got 10 more minutes on the clock here, Natalie. So what I will do, I'm trying to think, if I set the Zoom up again, it will come up. Or the alternative, I don't do that and continue with YouTube. But I do like, I mean, this is what I like about setting the Zoom up, is I can have this conversation and communicate and connect. Whereas on the YouTube, it's like just purely reading people's text.
Right.
So I mean, I do like the Zoom better, which is, you know, but when I did for this particular live event on the YouTube, was basically just to go through this, and I thought I'll put that up. So what would you like? Would you like me to set it up again?
Yeah, that'll be fine.
Okay, I'll set it up again then. If it goes, and I've not said goodbye, don't take it the wrong way. It's just cut out, and then I'll set it up again, and then just join again. Okay.
All right.
Yeah. All right. Just a little heads up there, because I don't want to be rude or anything like that. And you know, so hopefully I've got maybe 8 minutes. Should be okay for the knives. Okay. Let's have a look. So my knife of choice, as you might already know, looking at the YouTube, is the surgical scalpel. Okay. And when I'm doing my work, I tend to have 3 blades with me. I have 3 surgical scalpels on the go. I have my typical normal blade. I will have a very fine tip, and I'll have also one that's very stubby. And the stubby acts like a Stanley knife. Okay. So that's when I'm in my pro mood, when I'm doing my marquetry. I have 3 knives. Okay. But just for now, we're going to say you're going to use 1 scalpel. What I like about the scalpel is they're very sturdy. They're easy to hold. The blades are very easy to put in, to replace. And you can technically sharpen them. It is possible that you can sharpen them. And I think on the YouTube channel, there is a thing where I actually go into grinding, how you can grind or sand your blade. But the easiest way to do it is if you've got a small little sanding block or sharpening block, or even a sanding block for wood will do. I've seen people do that. Is basically you sharpen the tip up by running it down the back of the sanding block. sharpening stone. So it's a sharpening stone technique, sorry about that. And you run it down the back until you take the metal off where the tip is. And it's that tip that you're bringing back to life. So don't throw your blades away. I mean, I collect mine in a little box like this, a little box. And then eventually when I sharpen them, I put them into different, these are my 3 blades, my stubby, my normal, or just a fine tip, and then very fine tip. Okay. If anybody's seen the Zebrano video, you can see how fine that can get. So knife, marquetry knife, scalpel knife is very important. There are people who use like breakable knives. Okay. I don't like them personally. I think that they're too floppy. They move too much, and I don't like that. I don't like that inconsistency. But I'll be honest with you, I've seen a few people who do marketing who say that they use them, okay? And I'm like, well, if you can do that, if you're comfortable with that and it works for you, then use that, you know? But for me, it's just too it's just too much movement, you know? There's other versions on the market as well. These are sort of like in between. They're just like a scalpel, but a different kind of make. They're rounded, or you can twist them. Again, it's the way that you feel comfortable with that particular knife, how you feel comfortable with it. But the other kind of knife that you're going to probably need is like a Stanley knife. Okay. Now, I will say for curves, anything shapy, round, and things that you need a bit of precision, always use your scalpel. But if you've got to do a straight cut, I find that scalpels can sometimes be a little bit off, and that's why I have a stub kind of scalpel blade. But what I will do, I'll use this for straight edges. Use your Stanley knife or your big knives for doing straight cuts, you know. So I will if I do a curve, and fine. If I've got to do a straight line, I'll swap it over. I have it on hand, and then I'll do a cut with a Stanley knife. They keep their edge. They're generally pretty sturdy, and for me that works. So the essential tools basically is a nice sharp pointy knife for your curve work, and a nice stubby one, or like a Stanley, excuse me, for your straight edges. Now, if you do go to a craft shop, you can pick up a Stanley, you can pick up a knife, or a craft knife, or a marquetry knife. Sometimes they sell little knife packs like this, okay, or little singular ones like that, etc. I will say that you will need to to get more knives. One of the things that some people come to me about is that they've been bought themselves like a marquetry set, a ready to do, and they're wonderful. They are wonderful little things. If you look at the designs, unless you go really into the advanced set of these boxes, most of them are very basic, and you can see why, because it's very like building blocks up, you know, with marquetry, with veneer. But what I found out is that they tend to give you, to make the set complete, like a disposable knife. And if you look at the woods that are in there, some of them are quite exotic, hard timbers. So what happens is you'll get halfway through that project, and I can guarantee that that blade is done. That blade is gone. Well, at least for my standards of use, is gone. You know, and you will find that people will then struggle, and they will push harder. And which is why I say to people, listen, look, if you're going for close-up shots and you're using knives that you're not aware of, get some safety glasses. And that's the only reason why. I mean, I've been doing this years. I do wear them now and then. I also have visors. But you do not want that breaking and springing up into your face. So, and that's basically by putting too much pressure on the blade and the knife because it's not performing, because it's blunt. So with that said and done, disposable knives, they're okay, they last a certain time, but when you get a scalpel, get some extra blades, but don't throw them away, because I can show you, like with the sanding, with the sharpening block, you can bring them back to life. I have a special grinding tool where I manipulate my knives for particular tasks. Okay, and there's also a YouTube video on that as well. So I always keep my blades. The only thing that you want to be throwing away is when your blade cracks. And I think, I don't know if you can see it there. There's a crack in that knife. There's a crack there. Yeah. I'll just have a quick show you this. There's a crack in that. Yeah. And you'll hear it click. That's gone. You can't fix it. Then that's when you have your sharps box, your little box, little plastic tub. And then basically that's where it goes in. I have a little boy around the house, you know. I do not want him to basically come into contact with some sharp knives. And this will stay in my workshop. There's a few in there now, and they're done. It's pretty safe, and I'm happy. It's cost effective. I do have a professional sharps box, and these will go into there eventually. Okay, if you've got one, that's fantastic. You don't need this. This will do for short term, and I just leave it next to me. When they go in the bin. Otherwise, you'll drop them on the floor, you'll kick them over, you'll stand on them. I mean, you know the stories, you know. Like I said, I've got a little boy hanging around, so I really do think about his safety. Let's have a quick look. Okay, we're still on knives. I'm just going to quickly set up this Zoom again so that other students and people can join. I hope you're all happy over there. Let's have a look. Yeah, that should be set up. And I'm going to check on you, Instagram. Hopefully it's all going good. Okay, we'll give Natasha a few more minutes, and maybe Olivia might pop by. You never know. Hope you're still there, John, and anyone else. Hope you're still there. So, quick recap. We did veneers. We did the boards, or the cutting boards. We did different kinds of tapes that were available, from low tack, clear, etc. And now we're working on knives. Okay. I mean, the thing that I like is that you can go to some sort of craft shops. I mean, I bought this like maybe a while ago. It's different knives. You know, I don't think it's the best in the world, but maybe for people who want to start out. How you doing? Nice to see you. These little knives are okay. I would just say in Fire Go about scalpel blades. I'm going for the tools and equipment for Marquetry. You might have to re-watch the video for the intro on this to go through the different tools that I've worked on. Right now, I'm on knives. I've just talked about the scalpel and different kinds of knives for different particular purposes. The good thing about these Stanley knives is that you can buy the little knives. They're very easy to get hold of. It's the same with the scalpel blades. They're very easy to get hold of. So let's put these back in here. Again, I would advise anybody who's in this part of the video to go and oh, fantastic. Great. Yeah, I've got just a few setups here, my friend. The guy just said about watching me on Instagram. He's just jumped over. Fantastic. So knives. That's the knives done. The blades. Oh, yes. One thing I did want to go into, and that is the number 4 Swan Morton scalpel. And I have here he is. You see that knife, that scalpel blade there? That scalpel blade. I don't like these. I don't use a number 4. I use a number 3. This is a bit too big and heavy and clumpy for me. And the reason why I don't like number 4 is because it's very hard to get a fine tipped blade for a number 4. These are the ones that they tend to sell that comes with it. And it is a blade designed specifically for, let's have a quick look at this.
Recording in progress.
It's designed for flesh. Now let me just go through this with you. You see the curve on the blade? See the curve there? For you to get a good tip, a good precision cut with this, your angle has got to be really high. It's got to be very high up for you to create the cut. And look, I'm too high up. The knife, the blade is spinning around. The moment I bring it back to myself to make it a bit easier, the moment I bring it down, I'm now no longer cutting on a tip. I'm cutting on a curve. And if you're trying to do shapes, which is a curve, and you're using a curve, you find that the curve of the knife is rather flat. So you're not able to get very precise cuts with a curve because you're now cutting here, along here. You're not cutting the tip anymore. You're cutting there. The moment you start to cut along here is when you're actually cutting with a flatter, a more elongated blade. That's why I don't like this kind of particular knife blade. And I don't like number 4. It's a bit too big and too fat and chunky. And to get the blades is very hard. So that's why I don't like this particular design of blade. It's got to be pointy. It's got to be fine tipped. Let me put these in here. And for that, you're going to be using one of these sorts. Now, people will find their own knife blade. And like I said previously, it's important that you find the knife that you're comfortable with using. Okay. I think that's it really for knives, because I'm not going to dictate to you what you should and shouldn't do. Through practice, through process, you'll find out what is going to work for you. Okay. Knives, what's next? What is also a basic tool is the metal ruler. The metal ruler. Now, you might think, oh yeah, I've got plastic ones that I've, they'll do. Get yourself a metal ruler, okay? Get yourself a metal ruler. And I say this because plastic ones, as you're cutting and you do it many times, don't get me wrong, they've got the advantage of the plastic ones. Eventually, you will start to cut away the edge because of the knife, and you'll destroy it. It will no longer become a very flat and pure edge. And that's when you start to lose your accuracy. Why and how do we use rulers? We use them to create edges or seams. Sometimes, for instance, you're working on a piece of veneer and it might be ideal size. It might be this wide, might be that wide, might be this wide, and you're okay with that. But there'll be a time when, I need it to be bigger. And that means you need 2 to make it wider, or 3. And the only way you can really do that effectively enough is to use a metal ruler, because it's perfectly straight. So you need to learn how to cut a straight edge on your veneer so that you've got one seam and then the other seam perfect, so you can marry them up to make a bigger sheet. And sometimes, by the way, this particular veneering system here, it's quite specialized in its own right. You can make patterns in the background of your ground veneer that are very subliminal, which are very very distant, almost you can't see them. And you can do a patchwork almost in the background by using this particular technique, by using a ruler. And if you do that, your groundwork is going to be perfect every time. And that's what you need. You need it to be good. And using a metal ruler is one way that we actually achieve that in marquetry. So metal rulers are great. Most marquetry, I must say, is curvy. Flowers, shapes, hillsides, grasslands, scenery, your horses, animals. They always require like curves for you to acquire a perfection in the curves. Whereas if you're doing buildings or architecture, let's say you've got a barn or a farmhouse in a fielded, wonderful scenery view. That's a good question. Someone just asked about aluminium rulers. I have one. I bought this from Action in Holland. It's fine. What's important is that it's straight. These are steel, but if you'd let me finish, I'm only joking. What I'm trying to say to people is that the pure function or purpose of having a ruler is that you've got a straight edge. You see, when I'm doing marquetry, I don't use the numbers. I don't ever really use the numbers. The only thing that I'm interested in is that perfection, is that edge, that purity. That to me is what I need. That is what it's about. So it could be this in steel. It can be this one in aluminium. What we're looking for, though, is something relatively thick. You see, the thinner you are, which is also brings me to the plastic rulers, what will happen, my friend, is when you're cutting, sometimes, because it's so thin, your knife will mount the plastic and go into you, or it will mount over the metal if it's thin. So thicker is better, okay? Now, for those people who probably don't want to spend, you know, $20 or whatever on a decent metal ruler, go, oh, you know, it's a bit expensive. What can I do instead? Well, you can use aluminium rods, aluminium bars. I have one downstairs, which is like a little T-bar. It's about this long. You can go and get bar. Okay, I would not get an aluminium bar from the warehouse or from the B&Q or from the sort of like, you know, housewares shops where it was like one flat one like this, because sometimes not in manufacture, but it's being shipped around, people are knocking it around. If it was to come out and you wasn't to see that, it's very hard to sort of actually see it until you're using it. But if they've got a T on them, like a metal junction here, like a support, you find that they're a lot more pure and a lot more structurally sound. They're less likely to distort. But I will say, I do notes on this, by the way. One of the things that I do is I have a look down them before I buy them, because the ones that I buy over here in about 1 meter's length, 2 meter, 2 meters probably going over the top a little bit, but you can cut them down to the size that you want. But aluminium bar is okay, as long as you can use it. I mean, oh, this one can slip around a little bit, and you don't really want to be resting it against something like that. So you've got to be able to use it. Let's have a quick look. Well, there you go. I mean, that's the advantage that you found there when I was saying about thicker ones, is that you're using it because it's got that like thickness. And that's what I do say with these particular rulers. One tip that I will give you, my friend, is that on the back, you see that there, and it's also with this one too. I'll prove it to you. What you can do, let's just get let's just get this little thing here. It's a little tip. It's not something I have to always go into away, but let's say, for instance, if this is my ruler, this has got no this is only metal paper, sandpaper, metal sandpaper. This, it's emery cloth. It's really fine. I think it's maybe like, you know, 250 or 300 or maybe 400 grit. Yeah, watch this. See that? That's metal on the veneer. And this is quite an oily veneer. It's not the most driest, but there it is. See? Now watch. Oh, look, let's see. Now watch. The entire thing's moving. What it does, that little bit of sandpaper on the back of your ruler gives you extra grip, which means when I lay this down, I put my energy into my ruler, it's not going to move. Because what happens is, you know, normally you start over here and sometimes it'll move by the time you get over here. The sandpaper really helps you have the extra stability, and that's what you need, especially if you're doing straight lines. It's got to match up perfectly, okay? If you do have problems with it not matching up, have a look at your aluminium bar. Have a look at that, okay? Now this one I've had for years. As you can see, it's a little bit, it's not perfectly flat, but it doesn't matter as long as I use that to my advantage. If it's warped like this, I put my energy in the middle, it will definitely put pressure on these sides here. And all you do, you get some sheets of sandpaper, get some glue, spray it on the back of your ruler, spray it on the back of your paper, give it a few minutes, lay it on, flip it over, put pressure on, and then just trim off the excess. I would say it's been a real benefit for me having that tape on the back of my rulers. Okay, so rulers for shaped work, they serve no purpose whatsoever, but for straight lines, architecture, and for doing the mitering frame borders or lines or strips, they're perfect. rulers, definitely get yourself one if you can. And little aluminium ones, it's also good. I have a little baby one here. Yeah, I'm glad you like the tip. I do have one with the tape on the back. I can't seem to find it, but this is good if you've got to get in there quickly and do small little lines. You know, you could probably put it in your pocket, so to speak, you know. So a range of metal rulers are fantastic. Yeah, you're looking for fixative spray, glue spray. I've got one here called Home Glue. It's a home glue spray. You know, it's not the best in the world. It's not like supersonic, like high-tech NASA stuff, but it does the job. And if you do it without any dust around, if you do it in the workshop, you've got dust and you're spraying it like this, the dust will go up and it'll act as a little barrier in between. So make sure you've got a spotless place, that you've got some fresh air, because you'll be like, whoa, you'll be all dancing around after a few blasts of this. So make sure you're well aired, dust free, spray on, do the sandpaper, spray the other side, wait for it to go tacky, and then done. Press it down, trim it off. Trial and error, really. You know, I mean, this was just from a craft shop. Just got this from a craft shop. You can use the paintbrush stuff, but the reason why I don't like that is because sometimes it can get blobby. So I want pure control. I want consistency. If I paint it on, it's up and down, and then you've got these nodules. You've got these things in the veneer, in the back of the back. You know, this is perfectly flat. I don't want glumpy glue here where it's now got a bit of a mountain, and glumpy glue here by painting it on. And sometimes when you paint it off, you paint it on, then you pull it off. You paint it on, you pull it off. And it's like, what? Because the metal sometimes doesn't always want to give with this particular glue. But when you use a spray, it goes on. It ain't moving, you know. So let's have a look. We've got Av here. Do I use veneer tape or regular masking tape? Yeah, yep. Let's have a look. Yeah. Have a look at the video at the beginning of the tape thing. Watch through it, but of course I'll help you out here. Let's have a quick gander. The reason why I did the tapes was, or this basics on Marquetry, was to say, look, with some simple office tape, which is just clear tape, you can do Marquetry. But we do also have like sensitive tapes, masking tapes, low tack tapes. That's a big wide tape. I use that for another reason. Have a look at the video later. But yeah, I go for masking tapes. But if you can get your hands on low tack, that's better. Because when you use masking tape, which I have, the resin, the glue that's in it is quite strong. And after you've pressed it, you've got to take the tape off. And if the resin has got into the veneer, it tends to drag out the veneer fibers. And if you do it really badly, you can pull out an entire fiber back down to the MDF. And you don't want to have these pitfalls in your veneer work. There's a way that you can take tape off. There's a few tricks that you can do to stop it doing that. But masking tape is one that's renowned for that, for being strong enough. So go for a sensitive tape or a low tack, okay? Because it's just enough to hold it together. You know, and it depends whether you're going to press it, vacuum press it, or whatever method you've got to use. It's just enough to hold it together. And what I tend to do, I'll be honest with you, what I tend to do, I tend to use the low tack on the Marquetry, and then I'll put little glue on the back, and and where the glue is, it bonds together. And then you can take your tape off and just leave it strategically around. Yes, yes. What you want to do, if you have trouble with the masking tape, get an iron. Get an iron. Not too hot, you know. No. It's just got to be warm enough. What happens is that the heat from the iron goes into the tape, softens up that that glue, and then you can pull it off a lot easier. It's a bit, can make it a little bit sticky, but if you're worried about it, use an iron. Now, hopefully, I don't really want to go off track too much, because I've got to try and go through this list. See what I do. I've got my tape, and I make little cuts. Have a look. I make little cuts, and I use little tabs like that, and use this. You see, most people who do marketing just slap on, just slap it, you know, they just slap on loads of tape, and you can't see what you're doing. You can't see what's underneath it. You've got to take all that off. And sometimes, like some tapes, they don't allow other tape to go on top. So you'll only be stuck in a few places, and it starts to come apart. And the other thing that you don't want to be doing, which I said earlier, was you don't want to be putting tape on top of tape, on top of tape, on top of tape, because then you build up like a micron or like 0.5 millimeter of tape. And when you press that, potentially, if you've got softer veneer, you will bruise the veneer. You want to keep it minimum. And not only that, depending on the technique that you're using to press your veneer, you're going to have uneven surfaces. I've got like 20 tapes here stuck down, and 10 there, and 5 here, and 25 here. It's all going to be like this. And when you're pressing, you want consistency in your veneer. You want it to be as flat and as level. You don't want any damage by these buildup of tapes. Keep it to a minimum. I don't want to go off track a little bit too much on the tapes, but I'm happy to engage with you, of course. I do Zoom sessions. If you're on Facebook, join the All About Marquetry, and I do Zoom sessions where I love chatting to people. I love helping people. I like to. I was just a while ago, I was chatting to somebody I've met through Facebook who wants to learn marketing, who wants to learn some tips. So I like it because I can engage. What I have on this live event here is just a little bit of text from people, and I'm happier there. But it's like, you can always do a little bit better. But I love this. This is fantastic. Well, it is. Well, I'm not surgical, but to some degree it is. It is little stitches. It's little tabs, just building it up, holding it together. You know, you find that your work's a lot neater. You can see what's going on through that, and financially, you're using less tape because you're being more strategic with your tape, and you're not just blatantly putting it on. I know people do that, but that's not the way that I do it. Okay, this is the way that you know. So there's a bit about tapes. Again, you can use the old iron. Someone phone you up when you're on the phone. There's been lots of tips throughout this, so have a look at the video when the live session ends, and you know, bits and bats. So where was I? I went a little bit off track, a little bit. Rulers. Yeah, we did the rulers. Why they're important. That's fantastic. Now, wood glue. I have this thing here. It's only a small one, and it's just a little small thing. I use it when I'm doing my marquetry to glue the bits together before I come to press it. It means I use less tape. The veneer becomes a lot more sturdier. But what I like about this little thing is it's very small. It doesn't really roll away that much. and it's on hand. You know, when you're dealing with marquetry and you've got big sheets of marquetry, you want to keep your work area tidy as possible. Otherwise, you knock them over or stuff gets in the way. The other thing, pens or knives or bits of veneer get under the veneer sheet. So what I try to do, I try to keep everything as small as possible, as you might say, you know, so that's why I use this. But when I'm coming to do my pressing, I use a big tub. When I've got a press, I get more glue. But when I'm doing marquetry, if a little bit's going to break, a little bit's going to come out, I glue it in. And I just love it. I just take my lid off, squeeze it in, use a knife or whatever to put it into the point, rub it in. I have a special push stick that I use for certain things. Again, that's not a part of the basics, but it keeps it flat. So wood glue, standard wood glue, you can buy it from any sort of craft shop. It's not hard to get hold of. It's basically white wood glue. So yeah, just in a handy little container like this will do. Yeah, something close by. Pressing, that's another story. I'm not going into that really. Wood glue, that's done. Safety glasses. Now, I'm a seasoned marquetry person, so I know how much pressure to put on my knife. And usually, when it's tough wood and my knife's blunt, I tend to over compensate. And if I've got a fancy corner or turn, my tension on the blade can go too much that it will snap. When that happens, the blade tends to get ejected upwards. And if you're going in for a close shot, potentially your face could be in the way. So I recommend people who are just starting out marquetry to wear glasses. I don't care if they like enhancement glasses or whatever, but if you don't need enhancement glasses, just put some safety ones on until you do or learn enough. Okay, it's never happened to me where it's gone in my face. But if I'd have had people telling me a little bit better about the wood and the grain when I was learning this, I probably would have done it less. But there's always that chance that potentially when you're doing close-ups, you overcompensate, too much energy, too much pressure, that you could potentially break the blade and it becomes detached and flies off. So it's purely for people who are beginning, just something to watch out for. So try not to put too much energy into your knife cut. Try not to do that. Okay. So safety glasses, they're a bonus. I do have some glasses, by the way, that are enhanced, like lenses that got lights on. I love them, but I put them down somewhere and I've got a little 5-year-old running around and I have no idea where they are anymore, but I love them. I love them. So safety glasses, so I've covered that. Okay, so we've covered pretty much the basics on the basic tools that we can get to start marquetry. We did veneer, we did the cutting board, we did the tapes, we did the knives, we did the rulers, we did the wood glue, we did the glasses. I talked a little bit on these. This is just like a sharps box. It's just a little cheap thing to put your knives in when they're done, when they're broken. Again, I have a little boy running around. I don't want him in my little studio and for him to cut himself or to pick one up. So it goes in here. The lid can't come off. It's going to be hard for someone to get into that. And it's close by and it's small. And you know what? It's cheap and cheerful. So be safe. Be safe, as safe as possible. So that's that. That's that. Extras. Extras are, let's have a look. One of them is tracing paper. Tracing paper is really good. Now, I'm not going into design. I think I did a video on how you can get abstract design and make it into marquetry. But let's say you have your wonderful design. Let's just go out on a limb here. You know, there you go. You've got your abstract art. Oh, it's too light. You got your abstract there, and then you've got to figure like, oh, there's my design. How do I transfer that into the veneer world? Well, one way is to actually make a copy with your tracing paper and then combine that with carbon paper. And what you're basically doing is you're making a copy using the tracing paper to actually create shapes in veneer that you're copying through and cutting them out. So these things they're not essential because there's more than one way that you can do marquetry. But there are times when I do need to get a copy or make a shape from what I've made on my drawing into the veneer. And this is one way that you can do it. Now, tracing paper comes in like A4, A3 or rolls. There's different ways you can get your hands on it. Carbon paper is like A4. And for people who want to do parquetry, you want to get yourself some like graph paper, okay, which is really good for straight lines and shapes and geometric patterns to break it up for you. So it's definitely a benefit to have some graph paper, okay. I don't use it that often because I don't do designs that small. I tend to be freehand or free designs. I tend not to go for parquetry that much. And there is a difference, of course, with the difference between marquetry and parquetry. Marquetry is free-flowing shapes, curves, beautiful floral patterns, can be numerous things, animals, but generally it's curves and free-flowing forms. Whereas parquetry is where you're using straight lines. Anything that's got straight lines in it, that's geometric, that's got repeating patterns, or to some degree, it's sort of architectural, or where you really need to put like, you know, a cube or a square into the design. So that basically is parquetry. You think of parquet flooring, those patterns that you get, a chessboard, for instance, that's parquetry. And for that, you tend to use a ruler and make strips. Or you can make a parquetry jig or a straight line jig. On the YouTube channel, I think that I put a how to make your own parquetry jig on my channel, and I think that that's up now, and that shows you how you can make one. And it's about slicing, making strips and lines and stuff like that, how you can do that. All it does at the end of the day, instead of you doing each line with your ruler by hand, and this is the way I used to do it. But you know, each particular piece could, and I do like that to some degree because there's pros and cons in using a jig and actually using this, but that's for another discussion. But you know, you've got to lay it out and cut and then flip it over and line it and precision and cut, you know, that's parquetry, you know. And there are people who just purely excel in parquetry. In fact, give me a second, I'm going to show you a piece of parquetry. I'm here. So, there you go. That's a piece of parquetry. It's straight lines. Yeah. And by the way, this was done with a Stanley knife. In fact, I made like 3 videos how to do this. And I specifically used a knife like this to do it, just to show you that you can. I never used a surgical scalpel for this. I just used a very simple, stubby Stanley knife. But look, it's straight lines, it's geometric, Okay. And this here, it's looks like it's in it looks like it's in some sort of picture frame. It's not. There's no picture frame. It's a technique to build up veneer. It's to emulate what a picture frame looks like, but it's not. But don't tell anybody, okay? And this, of course, is marquetry. It's a lot of shapes, a lot of curves. This is circletry. This is a combination of parquetry and circles. This is like, yeah, I made strips with my ruler and my jig, and then I cut circles out. So that was circletry, and this is parquetry. Again, I just used a ruler for that. Now this has got circles in it and straight lines, but just to show you, curves are marquetry, straight lines are parquetry. So this is my carbon paper. So it's a bonus. That is the pure basics. But what I want to talk about now, before I end this, I'm not finished yet, is some of the optional things that you can go into. And one of them I recommend is getting yourself a headset. Get yourself a headset. Now, I'm like 50, but I've got pretty good eyes, you know, to say the least. But having a headset, you know, I mean, this thing has got a light on it, which is fantastic. Means that your hands are free. You can see what you're doing. You get to see the knife, and that extra layer of depth really does increase your accuracy, your precision. I mean, you know, I have different kinds of these headsets. I like the Zoom glasses, but to me, sometimes you just can't seem to cut the thing in the right place. I put this on, fantastic. So it's not essential that you have this. It's an optional tool. It's something that could be, which is a benefit for you. Yeah, it's got, this one's got different lenses in. Different lenses. Put them in there. Put the box. So a headset is a real advantage to have. What can I say? Yes. I'm just going to go through this little tip now. I have here some wax. It's just candle wax. When you're dealing with difficult woods, I sometimes will rub wax over my knife just to allow it cut a little bit better. Don't do it all the time. And sometimes I will actually put pencil lead into the grooves of my scalpel so that I can take my blade on and off. Quickly have a look. So just to summarize, this was about the basic tools that you can get and use to start marquetry, how you can do it. I was going to go into more advanced tools like for the sand shading, but it's probably I could probably do that another time. It might be better to do that another time. But the things I covered was the veneers, the cutting board, the tape, the knives, the rulers, the wood glue, the glasses, and the carbon or tracing paper. And I really do think that with those tools, with those equipments, you can actually do marquetry. I mean, these are these are like 5 things you can do marquetry. And that, by the way, isn't going into pressing or how I press or how I glue together. That is just like the pure marquetry. Let's have a quick look at these questions. A template. Templates are like cutouts. It depends on the design as regards to template. I know that you can do stuff with routers. I know that. But templates, you're basically putting a shape over the top of your veneer and cutting through. Let's have a look. Okay. Yeah, okay. Let's have a look. Vincent, if you put in, type in HBM tools or machines. It's a Dutch company, but this cost me €10. This cost me €10. Let's have a look. HBM machines. And I think that'll HBM machines, and it's a Dutch company, but they will ship it. I believe that they do ship the products. So let's have a look. The guy talked about templates. I don't really use templates. And I'll be honest with you, when people use templates, it's because you've got more than one to do. If you've got a multiple repetitious, then templates, they're worth the investment. But as a free-flowing designer maker, I tend not to make templates. To be honest with you, I've never really been in a position. I've had a project to do many years ago when I had the same sort of shape to do. Then I did the sort of template. But you know, thing about templates is, depending which one we're talking about right now, you can cut into them. You're relying on resting your knife persistently every time. If it's a symmetrical shape, you got to watch it. Don't flip it over. You don't flip it over this way. It's a thing in itself. Do I color my veneers? I mean, this one I didn't do myself. I bought them from a French company because that had a wide range of blues. But the company that I contacted in Italy sent me a full pack of veneers of samples. It was fantastic and for free. So it was very good of them. But to buy a full sheet of a colored veneer can be expensive. At the moment, I don't know if on the YouTube channel I've actually got my colored veneers, but I have been doing it myself, coloring veneers. And I'm still in the process of learning, doing different types of colors. Let's have a look. The company is, I'm going to write the company down for you, and then you can actually visit them yourself. Let's have a look. So it's called Leg. No. Quattro. Italy company, Italy. Let's have a look. Okay, scroll saw. I'm doing my best to answer everybody. Okay, I appreciate it. I really do. So thumbs up. Thanks for interacting with me, everybody. I do appreciate it. Scroll saw. I don't do a scroll saw. Traditionally, years ago, they had something what's called a donkey, which would basically do the same thing. And it's like a scroll saw now, only a wooden version of it. So there's many different kinds of designs. They also have the small scroll saw, which is like a coping saw, which have what's called a bird's mouth plank, or it's actually like the bed is a small bird's mouth, and your blade goes in between, and you would saw with a fret saw. They're okay. That's a different kind, and also the wood tends to be thicker. If you go and find us on Facebook, All About Marquetry, there's some people in there who do the saw. I don't. I do knife, but it is possible. With the machine scroll saws, you're looking at tilting the angle of the blade for about 16, 17 degrees, and it's called the double bevel effect, and it's all nice and neat. Like I say, I don't profess to be an expert with the saw. My forte is doing it with a knife, with marquetry with a knife, rather than a saw. But there are people that I know who do it in the group, who I think are happy to help share those skills, etc. I hope that helps. So I don't use it. No worries, Vincent. Thank you very much. This reason why I set this up is to try and help people. If you missed anything, go back to the beginning of this lesson. It will give you the essentials to start marketing. It's not everything, but it's to be as low cost as possible, because some people get into marquetry and then they lose interest or find it hard. It's a very patient skill to have, but if you would do it really well, it's very, very satisfying. It really is. I mean, I love it. You know, I go into my own little world, and I want to help people who are starting out. There is information to get. There are groups you can join, but not a lot of experts like me want to come and help for free to give advice, and I think it's a shame. I'm 50. I really want to try and spend time giving back my knowledge and energy and my skills to people. I don't want marquetry to die. I want it to live on, and that's why I really try to put my energy and passion into this, to give as much as I can for people who are starting out or who want to learn this. It is a beautiful craft to have. You can make money on it if you do it well. And I'm in it for the long run, for people to watch them grow and hopefully be there for them, as you know, as they go through the process. And it's satisfying for me. I enjoy it. I was having a conversation later with a lady who's joining me. Previously, I have Zoom sessions. Just reach out to me, touch down with me. I'm very happy to give you my knowledge and guidance. Okay. I meant with a template. Yeah, cutting circles. Cutting circles. No worries. I've got something for you, Zav. Zav. This is a typical circle cutter. Yeah. It's probably one of the better ones I've found, but I don't like it. But it's okay for a novice, for a beginner. You see, you've got your pin, your knife. It spins around. It does okay. And I've used templates, by the way. I don't like templates. I get gaps. And what you have, Zav, is you have a gap here and an overlay here. Yeah, now I have an overlay here, and on the opposite side of that circle, you have the gap. Unless you can actually match them up perfectly, you will go crazy. And I hate gaps. Gaps, go to hell. I don't care. Just go away. But the past few months, I've been making my own, redesigning my own circle cutter. So this is my circle cutter. Again, I can move my thing here. I have a pivot point here, which has got a special, it's all bearings. It's all bearings. Everything's on bearings because it's a minimum amount of movement and perfect rotation. And that is what I need when I want my circles. So I designed this and made this to cut perfect circles out. Now, did you see my circles? There's one in here, by the way, one in here. It's like 0.8 of a millimeter. It's like just slightly thicker than my fingernail. And it's a perfect circle. Unfortunately, it's very hard to see, but there's one in there and there's not a gap anywhere. And that one there's 2 mil. Look at all these circles. They're perfect circles. When I do circles, I want perfection. So I designed this thing here to make circles. Like you say, you use a template. I mean, these are circular rings. And a circular ring is even harder than just putting a basic circle in. Like, oh yeah, just cut a circle out. That's easy. Okay, you might make a few mistakes. That's easy. And by the way, I have cut circles with my own hands. But it takes me hours. And there's things that I've got to do to get it right. This thing saves me a lot of time. And it's a benefit, this thing. I mean, I like circletry, which is parquetry or marquetry, where it specializes in circles as the art. Now, I have a PDF of this on the Facebook website, All About Marquetry. If you join the website, you can look at the file, download it, and then see how I made it, and then you can make yourself one. You know, it's all free. You don't pay me for anything, but it will show you how I made the circle jig, and then you go, oh, you know what? And now I see what he's done. He's using bearings. Now and then. So, failing that, if you can find a way to give me your email that you're secure and you're happy with, I'll send you a PDF. I can send you the PDF to you, and then you go, oh, thanks. It's like, I think it's like 10 sheets long, shows different stages of the design and the angle of the knife. And if there's a lot gone into this. I did like maybe 3 or 4 prototypes until I finally got to this. So I spent months. I was doing experiments on cardboard, just thin card, and cutting them out and seeing and spinning them around to see how good they were. Because I could do it with veneer to start off with, but then I'm throwing veneer away. So when I perfected it, I tried it on one of the hardest veneers that I know of to work with, and that was ash. It's hard wood, and it's open grain, really tough, open grain. And I was going through it like, boom. I thought, oh, this is going no good. But I managed to get a 2 mil ring out of ash, and I was like, nice. That's what if I'm going to do something, I want to try and teach people how to do it. I want to do it right. I want you to be the best you can. And that's why I've done this thing for beginners, to say, look, these are the tools and how we can do it. But now that you bring the little fire in me to talk about circles, I'm saying, okay, well, you can have it then. Take it. So let's have thanks, Vince. I'm running behind everything, you know, because I'm reading all the comments. That's why I like Zoom better, because, you know, but this is also good. So, oh, thank you, Vincent, you star. Mwah. Mwah. Yeah, well, actually 51 in a few days. So 50 is nearly over for me. It's a shame. You know what? I'm young at heart, you know. I'm young at heart, and that's it's what you think, you know. You know, like somebody said the other day, like they were losing people, or not losing people, but they went to tutors or people who were training them or helping them, and then they just disappear or they weren't interested anymore. I'm saying, look, I'm in this to the end. You know, this is my way to give back. I don't want to stop doing this. You know, this is what it's about. So thank you very much, my friend. Well, I made them back to this guy said, would you sell us one of your circle cutters? I like making circles in Parquetry and Marquetry, and I made them for myself. And the reason why I did the document was to try and help people how to make their own, you know, and that's why I did it. I mean, I want to help you the best I can, but to me, that was like the best way I could. The best thing you could do is reach out to me. Somehow get your email to me, okay? And I'll see what I can do to you. I can, like I said, I can send this PDF off and see how you get on. You know what it's about is looking at what's been done, the problems that have been solved, and then like looking at the materials you've got or you can get hold of, and then adopting it. You know, you could make it out of wood if you wanted to. You know, it's the principle behind it, the theory of the physics that work. And it doesn't matter you make it out of paper mache. You know, it's just the principle based on the compass and the bearings. You know, but I would love to sell one to you. No, I don't really want to sell, to be honest with you. I'm not a salesperson, but that's why I want to try and help you to make your own. I've solved all the problems, you know, but let's see how we get on and see if I can send some help you some way, okay? Please, I love it. Okay, nice. Yeah, just let me know how you get on with making one, okay? I'll give you some tips. The main thing is for me to find some way to get your email so I can connect with you. So maybe on Instagram, if you DM me, because you don't really want to be putting on here because like privacy and people could be spamming you and all that. You know, I don't want you to do that. It's got to be something that you're happy with. So send me an email maybe through Instagram or Reddit or Facebook. I'm just saying these are the platforms, and then I'll do my best to connect with you and stuff. You know, love your circle, Jig. Let's have a look. About thickness, do you always go with points? Always here. With the veneers that I use, the standard 0.7 mil veneer. If you do an inlay, you can of course go more solid. The thicker the wood, the thicker the wood, the more you've got to play with. And potentially in the future, you know, you can damage veneer very easily because it's very thin. But like a thicker veneer, like 2 mil, for instance, it's got a bit more body to it, a bit more resistance, and therefore you can steam and swell it out. And, you know, there's restorations that you can do that you can't really do if you've got veneer at this level. Okay. If I was doing it on a bought table, if it's already solid, of course you can router out. You can router most of that out at the same level, and that's pretty good by using a little hand router, and that's consistent. I do have some techniques, by the way, of putting inlay in, doing it by hand. But like I say, with modern routers nowadays, you can do it in really good, really level. You know, and it remained flat. When I did it, we can use what's called a hag's tooth, which is a hand router, which is old school. It's okay, but I did a technique years ago where I would cross hatch the shape like so, and then eventually, if you do it correctly at the right depth, they'll crumble out. And then you can also fill up before you lay with like wood filler if you needed to. You know, if you felt a bit insecure, or use a resin when you're gluing it in. If you use a natural resin or like a clear resin, when you glue that into the wood, you find that the resin will fill up any imperfections that you have. But mainly is you're putting your veneer over and you're coming in an angle and you're scoring that. And where that score line is, you're making sure that you don't go over that, because that is your veneer. And then, of course, going as close to it as possible with the router. And then the last bit you're trimming off. And then, of course, laying it in, you know. So I think that's what you mean, Avi, as regards to like for your marketing on the boat table. But failing that, if you're doing veneers, you know, you can always press veneers, do some fancy marquetry, and then lay it in. Vincent says, like, Ash, it is tough. It is a tough wood. And he says, golden oldie. Well done, Vincent. Well done, buddy. Congratulations. Vincent 65, congratulations. You know, that's like 15 years away from me. Good heavens. Good heavens. I hope I last that long. You know, to be honest with you, hope I last that long. Okay, it's been a pleasure with you all. It really has. I hope that I can do some more in the future. If you've got any suggestions, 41. You little nipper snapper, you. Love it. I love it. I'm hoping to do podcasts in the future. I'm hoping to do more of these. If there's something that you think that I could help you with, or do a video on, or another live session, I'm very happy to hear that. Reach out to me wherever you can. Like I say, I'm on Reddit. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. And I'm here on YouTube, and he's 36. Oh, good heavens, 36. Yeah. Well, you're all, yeah, good heavens. Well, reasonable ages, aren't we? I think Figo's, he's the nipper snapper. Next is Vitini, is Av. I'm like the new kid on the block, and then we've got Vincent. He's like the old man in the store, and he's the old man on the block. Anyway, it's been a pleasure to have you by my side. Yes, of course, the Dremel. I have played around with Dremels. I don't, but they've got like a special device over. They're small, they're handy. I mean, it's basically like doing a little thing, you know. They're okay. I don't know on the power or the cutters. I think it's an expensive tool to have, but they have a little router system, which I think is quite usable. It's just getting your depth right, you know, really, and being very careful for the inlay on the outside edges, you know. That's the hardest thing. But if you do your scalpel to mark that line, that's your boundary. You can't go wrong, you know. And of course, before I would be pressing it, I would probably be putting tape around it, so in case any of the glue was to spill out, you know. Yeah, stringing and inlays. Yeah, router jig, a stop. I mean, I'll be honest with you, stringing that I do, I tend to do it into the piece, or I will do it afterwards when it's been basically laid in, and trim it back. There's more than one way, you know. Rome, there's more than one way to get to Rome. At the end of the day, it's how you feel comfortable with by carrying out that particular action, and how you feel about actually doing it. Because we're not all skilled, you know. Some of us got to learn and make mistakes. And I tend to go for comfort, what I'm happy about doing, and also the thing that I feel I've got most control over, that won't allow mistakes. You know that to me is important. Yeah, great group. What can I say? I just hope it gets bigger and bigger, and just go with the flow. I to be honest with you, I tend to post on the Facebook group all about marquetry that I do these sessions. And I tend to do Zoom sessions with the group, because then you can have a one-to-one chat, you know, and I like that. I might be doing, let's have a look what I'm working on next. Ugh. I didn't think that it was really going to go on this long. You know, I was just supposed to be head down, do the chat, do the thing, have a little my conversation with the Zoom guests from All About Marquetry, and then I was going to just wrap it up. But you guys have been really sort of into it, you know. So when I'm ever doing any veneer work, when I'm not you working on it, I always basically keep it flat as possible. So this is what I would sometimes press in bits of MDF, tape on it to stop it from sticking, and in between sheets of paper. So I'm currently working on this thing here. And on the back, which will be the front, is the tape. So, and this is for one I'm doing circles in. So it's very labor intensive. That's why I have to make sure my circles are really, really good, because this is just the base. This is just the backdrop to the circles. So it's a tremendous amount of work just to, you know, so I'm trying to think where I was up to, by the way. It was to do with the stringing. So I'll spend this much work. I will lay it. I will actually trim it off after it's been pressed, and then I might do my miters or my stringing into the miters. But these particular things that I did on the Marquetry jig, and it was just like cutting straight lines. I mean, I'm making my own strings, you know, just making them, just all of them consistent at the same time. That's why I like using the Marquetry jig, because it's like consistency. I don't need to think too much. It's just like get it out, get it nice and done. But what I don't like about it is that one edge is perfectly flat and the other is at an angle. I don't like that. That's one of the disadvantages of using a particular Marquetry jig. Whereas the way that you would do it previously, you would make your cut, which would be perfectly square and flat, and then you would spin it around and do the other side, and they had two perfectly flat edges or rims. With the cutting jig, the waste that comes off has got the angle from the blade, and that has got like a slight angle on it, and I don't like that. It throws it off. That's just me, you know. And I just hope that my perfectionism that I have in this particular field can rub off or be given to you guys to make you better. That's it, you know. Let's have a look. Do I always veneer a backer? I think that you might be talking about having backing veneer on. I think that's what you mean, Zav. Normally, as a professional cabinet maker, you're always taught to balance your marquetry, balance your veneer work. It stabilizes the wood, it stabilizes the substrate, you don't get distortion. And it means that your work remains flat. Yes, I thought so. I'll be honest with you. That is the way that I would normally do my marquetry, especially with furniture. But I was I think I was on Marquetry Technical on Facebook. Well, let me get to it. And the guys there said, "Oh, we don't do." And previously, a month before, there was a lady who had the same problem, and I was like, well, "Why didn't you tell her about the backing?" Because they said it wasn't important. I was like, "I always back mine." So what I did, just to see what would happen, I decided, well, if people are doing it, let's just see what would happen. So I did that. Let me just say. There you go. Come here. this one here is the first thing I did, and I only did this piece, by the way, to show people how to make stuff, how to do straight lines. So it was just a project, really. Okay, this one's been balanced, perfectly flat. It hasn't moved a millimeter. Hasn't moved a tad. Hasn't moved at all. This one doesn't have any on the back. I mean, my woodwork teacher would be rolling in his grave now. He would be, oh, I tell you, he would be pulling his hair out. He'd be telling me off because it's not the way you should do it. You should always balance your marquetry. But I was like, well, I'm going to see how this goes, to see what let's see what they're talking about. So to prove the point, let's see if I can get a light behind that. You see that? That's like 2.5, 3 mil. It does warp. And of course, you put your lacquer on that as well, and you're getting like contraction. You do get a warp, but you could say, look, hey, it goes on the wall. No one's going to see it. I know it's there, and I don't like it. So eventually, I'm probably going to put a veneer on the back of this. But you could also say, look, it's a picture. It goes on the wall. Nobody sees the back. And to buy backing costs money. But, I mean, I don't like that myself. So I wanted to do this to see, you know, if this is only MDF. And I think the same would probably happen also if you did it on ply. Although there is a way that you can go across against the grain. But when you're dealing with like pieces of veneer like this, grain's going this way, grain's going that way, etc., 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 can be tricky. I always, when I'm doing furniture, balance my marquetry. Always do it. But like I said, I was looking into this and what people were saying and saying that it didn't warp, but it does warp. At the end of the day, it depends what you consider for yourself, for your own quality, for your own standards. I mean, nobody will know that looking at the pictures, by the way. The distortion on with it when I photograph that, nobody will know that. The only people who know that are you, because I've opened up to say, look, this is what will happen and why it is always better to veneer your back, to do a balancing on your veneer professionally. And now you know why. Now, like I say, it goes on the wall. I mean, it's not for sale, but if it's a piece of furniture, that would not do. So now I'm gonna catch up on this. So as you can see, it did warp. Okay, let's have a look. So the parquetry trouble with the angle of the blade. Tip: look on YouTube for V-cut video I did. Look at the V-cut video I did, and it will tell you about your angle or your knife, how it cuts, why it cuts, and why sometimes you get like a bit of an angle when you cut. Have a look at that and see how you get on with that. But it could be as simple as you might need to work from the back. Okay. Yeah, straw marquetry. Okay, yeah, that's. I'm not an expert in that at all. I don't profess to be. I know it's thinner, but have a look at the V cut on this channel or on the videos. Vincent, let's have a look. Holly, yes, holly is a nice wood. It's beautifully white. I always sing "Holly and the Ivy." Reminds me of Christmas. Anyway, there you go. But holly, beautiful white wood. I don't really know of a substitute to say, but these are man-made. So it's too bright. These are man-made veneers, or these have been impregnated with a white dye. Beautiful, really, really nice to use. This is from that Lugano. I think I gave the link thing up. And it's called Figured Angue Article. Perfectly white. So this actually is a real wood. I do apologize. I thought it was manufactured. So this is a real wood. Wonderfully white. It's beautiful. In fact, it's whiter than white. Yeah. So this is even whiter than your sycamore that you have. But this is some sort of special pigment that they put in. Yeah, it looks, I mean, it's easy to cut too. It's soft, it's forgiving. Holly's a bit tacky as you cut it. It's as like not a rubbery, but it has a tendency to just pull in the knife to tacky. It's the only way to describe it. You know, when you put it in and it jabs, it's like holds. It's like spongy. But this is really off the cuff. It's nice stuff. Yeah, I mean, the main reason why you get warpage is because of contraction. It's either contraction or expression, as you might say. So what happens is, it's like you get a piece of cardboard and you wet one side, and the wood, it expands. Expands on the inside, contracts. It's because you've got an imbalance. So you try it with water on card or on paper, it will curl up. And with wood, most of the time it happens because if with wood, when wood absorbs moisture, in the case with us, it's wood glue that we put into the veneer, which has got moisture that tends to make it expand, that tends to make it distort. If you get a piece of wood, if you dry that piece of wood up, you take out the water evaporates, and therefore it gets smaller, it shrinks. Those fibers come in close. You add water, it expands. So much so, beech was used in masonry when they were breaking solid stone boulders up. And what they would do a line, chisel a line in around the stone, and in the top, they would do a little V, chisel like a little hole in the wood, in the stone, like a little V. And then they would get a wooden block, beech, and they'd put that into the hole, wedge it in. And then what they did, they poured some water. And the water, this is how strong wood is. You know, this is the textile strength of wood. The wood would expand so much so that the line became a fault line in the stone. It would crack the stone in half. So you're getting a distortion. You're unbalancing that material, and therefore it warps. But I think with straw marquetry, because it's so thin, there probably is warpage there, but it's probably so minimum that we probably really don't notice it. Yeah, I mean, you know, the thing is, if you start to lacquer that side, sometimes the lacquer that you put on, I mean, I spray mine, is enough for it to contract, enough for it to start to warp, because you're making it unbalanced. So the more lacquer or the more paint that you put on, unless you use wax, if you use wax, it's probably not the same way as a sort of lacquer or like a finish that's sort of like wet. As for the dye, Vincent, these have been manufactured dyes. The company who does it, there's a few things that they can do with it, but they tend to use vacuums now. So you've got your dye, your wood goes into the dye, which is generally hot, and then what they do, they extract the air, and in the wood in the fibers of the wood, there's little air trapped in the fibers, and that prevents the dye from getting in. It gets into some places, but where the air is, it can't get in. So when they put it in a vacuum, they take that dye out, they take the air out, and the dye purely replaces the air. So this company, which I said the link from, they do it on industrialized. So I'm pretty sure that these colored dyes, like this one, for instance, are pretty good. I have done some dyeing myself on the YouTube, on the Facebook channel, on All About Marquetry. I've actually done a video of how I dye my own veneers. So I have started to dye some of my own veneers, and how I did it and why I did it and what temperatures. And I'll be honest with you, I'm experiment most of the time with what I do. I experiment a lot with what I do, and I tend to note what I do, and I make videos about what I do. And I've got a reasonably good results from that. And I've also got my own vacuum press. Underneath this table, by the way, is a small vacuum press. It's my own made vacuum press that I use to press my stuff. But that vacuum I can use to suck the air out of pots, and in the pots is the veneer and the dye. So I'm still in the process of experimenting and perfecting that. And the reason why I like dyes is because some of the work that I've got lined up in the future requires like blues and greens. But what I found out with the blues that I bought, there's like only so many blues that are out there, as you might say, that you can buy. You know, there's not enough. And with the artwork that I want to do, I want more control over what I can do. I want more sort of variation. I want slight tones of blues. I want slight darks. And I want to be able to say, okay, I've only got these two. I need something lighter. Okay, so I want to learn how to do it so I can make my own colored veneers. So again, I don't know if it's on Reddit. And I don't know if I've put that colored video on YouTube, but definitely on the Facebook group All About Marquetry, there is definitely the video of that. And I think I posted some on Marquetry Technical on Facebook a few weeks ago, because I had a gentleman saying, look, I have this design, how would you do it? People chimed in and said, do this, do that, use natural, such and such. I thought, well, look, you know, I'll give him my 2 pence. And I made a post, and it was like a lot of people were participating. It was quite a positive feedback. That really was, as you might say. So I have got the knowledge there. I'm happy to share that with you. Maybe it might be something to do in the future as regards to the dyed veneers. Okay, but that company in Italy, you know, I contacted them. These are it's like A4, and they sent them to me, and I think I did a coloring video, and it might even. In fact, I'll be honest with you, Vincent, if you look at the tall ships, which is one of the projects that I'm working on, which is why I'm doing the blues, by the way, the blues and the greens is for that project, the tall ship project. I think there's one where it says colors or watercolors, or and I think that I go into the colors in that on YouTube. So if you look at it, tall ship, look for color, dyes or colors. I forget what it's called. I do actually show what I do in that video about how I get to these colors and how I've been experimenting. So I think that I did that, okay? And that should hopefully help you with the colored veneers. Well, everybody, I think I've got to make tracks and get to bed. I thank you all for coming, everybody who's participated, everybody who's watched. My video camera skills are getting better. I'm hoping to get better with this, but I would like to wish you farewell and good night. If there's anything I can do for you, please do your best to reach out and contact me as ways that I've suggested previously. and I'll do my utmost best to help you in any way that I can and give the skills that I have, the knowledge, so that you can get better in the art of marquetry. Until next time, or the next video, or the previous sessions, farewell, and hopefully we will see you again. Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you. I'll be back, okay? Just hang in there. Thanks a lot.